The next step in the multiple SP award creation is to connect our newly created SPs on the contract by creating separate contract lines for each. If we look at our award before we do this, just to review, we only see one associated project with this con, and we only see one SP on the funding tab. So we need to go into View Contract. And the first thing we need to do is for our first SP, we'll adjust the date, save, and then come to the billing plan to complete that. Because this is letter of credit, we don't have to adjust the top. The bill type is federal. The invoice form is GSU LOC. Frequency is on demand. We change the bill by ID to letter of credit. And our billing specialist is RFS LOC. We'll save that, return to general information, and then we're going to select the Add Contract Lines button. The product group is always research. It's our only option. And then the other field we select here is the price type. Because this is a grants reimbursable award, we're going to select rate. The only two options we use are amount and rate. Amount would be for fixed billing, and rate is used for cost reimbursable. I'm going to select rate, and then I select search. Now I check the box all the way to the left. I add my dates. And again, just the budget period that we'll be using this SP. And now I add my contract lines. You can see now that it says one line has been added to the contract. So I'm going to return to contract lines. And now I see my second line. At this point, it's just a contract line. There's no SP associated with it. So now we have to select the Detail tab. And we come into Contract Terms after we save. We're going to select the PC business unit is Georgia State University. We're going to enter our first SP here. This is the SP we created, so it's technically our second SP. And the activity is always Proj. This date will default to the effective date, and that's okay to leave as is. Now I'm going to select Save. Now my project is associated with this contract number. I'm going to return to General Information, go Detail. I need to also enter my billing plan for this award. Again, the top two sections remain the same. Just need to fill in this bottom portion. And save. Just really quickly, we'll come back into this contract line, and I always like to double check that I see my SP stayed there. It did. And I'm going to repeat this step for the additional 8 SPs that I created. As I'm adding my contract lines, I do want to point out a couple of additional items. At the very end, once I have all of my contract lines created, I will add my letter of credit doc ID here. The system would not allow us to activate the contract without this ID here. I like to copy and paste it just to make sure I don't make any typos, so I'll just copy and paste it down to each line when I'm done. Also, because this is a grants reimbursable award, we don't need to do anything in the accounting distribution column here. If this were a fixed price award, we would need to add the SP in the distribution area here and the amount. So this is a grants reimbursable multiple SP award. There are a couple of additional steps or different steps if this were a fixed multiple SP award. The other thing to note is we're setting this up at the beginning. You can add additional SPs to an existing grants reimbursable award. They cannot be set up on separate contract lines once you have an active contract, but you can add additional SPs to a single line. That's only the case for grants reimbursable awards. Fixed billing awards cannot have additional SPs added once the contract is activated. So it's ideal to always set up your additional SPs during the initial award generation and setup process so that you can create these individual contract lines. What this allows us to do is ensure that we don't bill any more than the budget on the contract. Even if the department overspends an SP, we won't inadvertently bill the sponsor for anything more than what's on our budget on the funding tab for that particular line. Now that I have all of my contract lines created for my additional SPs, I'm going to come back to the Detail tab and I'm going to enter my letter of credit ID. I'm still not going to activate my contract at this point. I'm always going to do that as the last step of any new award setup, but this allows us to have the entire contract staged so that when we're ready, we can activate it. I'm going to just quickly tab over to General again, and you can see I have my two SPs, or my two contract lines for each budget period, one for the General SP and one for the SRE. Those are all here. Now when I'm going to select Save, and I'm going to go to one more step here, which is my billing options. And I'm just confirming that this is HHS RF. This bill type stays federal because in our billing plan we have a direct federal sponsor, and this is letter of credit. So we don't change anything here. I just always want to make sure I check this just like I would with a normal cost reimbursable award that we would invoice. I'm going to select Save here, and now I'm going to return to my award profile. Now I'm in my award profile, and you can see my additional SPs are added here. So these came from the contract lines that we just added, and I can now sort of see this and make sure that each one was added here in the correct order. Everything is good. I'm just going to save that to be safe. And then now on my funding tab, when I select View All, I see each of my projects here. There are no start and end dates listed at this point, and we're going to go through and change all of that, but I can see each of my new SPs ever since I created those contract lines. They now show up on the funding tab as well. So we have our associated project panel that's inclusive of those SPs and our funding tab. So now I'm going to add my dates to these additional lines on the funding tab. I like to copy and paste as much as possible. And I'm just double checking my year 2 dates and my year 2 SPs. Okay, so all of my dates are now entered for each of my new SPs. on the funding tab, but you can see we have no staged amount. We staged this award with the full amount in year one, so we need to adjust that to just the year one non-SRE funds. So I'm going to update the direct and indirect totals to what those would be for year one. If you double click, save, return to award profile, you'll always need to select view all, come in here, and until I'm ready to actually post this budget, I can just enter the total amount here. Our notice of award states that we have restricted funds in the amount of $17,500 for the summer research experience. We will need to add indirect there, so this amount's going to be a little bit higher. I'm going to keep this in here as a placeholder until I'm ready to post the individual budget lines. And save that. $316,572 is my annual amount, so I'm going to go and add these two amounts to the respective budget years, as that's the expected budget for each year of the project. Once that's completed, I also need to go into each SP and add my KK panel information. So my KK begin date for my second SP. Again, this is my SRE funding for year one. It's going to be control and track with budget. I'm going to update that and save. And I can enter that for each SP. Another thing we need to do for each of our additional SPs, now that those are connected on this contract, we need to enter into the project team and add the two PIs. We're going to select Kyle as our PI and select the project manager box. This is SRE funding, so I'm not going to add effort here. I'm just going to make sure that the individuals are actually added. So now I'm going to add Dr. Goucher because he is a PI. Listed in our notice of award. I don't check the box for him. He's not the contact PI. I'm going to save this. And then I will do that for, now you can see they're both added here. I'll do that for each of my SPs. One quick correction on the KK panel for each project. You actually won't complete the KK begin and end date and the KK control parent and control child. This will be driven when you actually post the budget on the funding tab. This information will be completed. So you don't have to enter that now. If you do, it's just going to go back to blank once you hit save. Now that I've entered my project team for all of my additional SPs, I do just want to point out one additional point here. Your default SP that was generated with the award is going to list the full project period here. This isn't anything you can change for that first SP. The system generates those dates and doesn't like those dates to be changed. So just a heads up on that. The rest of them will have the correct budget period for that particular SP. If you go into any of these and look at the project team, it will just be for the 1 year. A couple of additional things that you need to add to all of your SPs are any certifications. So we don't have any here, but if you select View All, you'll see now all of these new SPs show up. Those certifications would have to be entered for every SP. And in this case, we don't have any, so we don't need to enter anything here. But we do have terms. And on the Terms tab, again, there should be 30 when we're done because year 1 had 3. So if I do View All, it had 3 different terms. 1 is defaulted here for all of the additional SPs, 1 blank space, but we'll want to make sure we copy down all of these terms for each SP. So I'll start with my budget term, add my other, I can copy and paste these. And my third is my programmatic report. And then I'm just going to save. And I'm going to work my way down through all of the SPs. Now you can see I have 3 for this as well. Okay, now I have my terms entered for each of my SPs here. All 3 terms for every SP for every year.